Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well, my number one is a game called Child of Light on the PlayStation 4. It's also available on the Xbox One, 360, Nintendo Wii U even. It's available on everything. Have you played... you haven't played this at all, have you?
No, not at all. I'd heard a lot about it, but...
yeah, it's an Ubisoft... it's kind of like a fairy tale. It's about this duke's daughter called Aurora, and it's at the beginning she dies, or does she? Is she kidnapped? Is it a dream? Is she in limbo? Nobody knows. It looks amazing. It's done in this kind of watercolour style. It looks... I mean, the visuals really are quite something to behold, especially considering it's made by such a small team. The tone of the game is surprisingly harsh and grim, and there's no respite at all. The only sweetness is to be found in those visuals, which are really appealing. Even when you're in... sort of dank, cavernous places, it looks absolutely gorgeous. All of the dialogue, there's a couple of monologues in the game, but all of the dialogue is text only, and it's all done in rhyme, and it doesn't really translate. It becomes a tad twee. Reading lines and lines of terrible rhyming couplets sort of loses its appeal. I prefer it if it was all spoken, because then it could have sort of, a bit of light, savvy voice acting wouldn't have gone amiss. I think it would have, not made it seem so twee, but. Yeah, it's a side-on sort of RPG that's also a platformer kind of. You're followed around by this firefly, and he absorbs sources of light by touching them. And it's very much like the Star Bits in Super Mario Galaxy. And actually, it has a similar two-player system where somebody can just control the firefly. So there are sort of similarities there. And ostensibly, the combat in it is turn-based because it's an RPG. But there's... In addition to it, it's turn-based, but it's not. There's this timer at the bottom of the screen that runs along, and each character who's in the battle has a little sort of ticker. And at the final stretch of this timer, there's a red section where you can cast your attacks. And if you attack when your opponent's icon is in that red casting section, they bypass an attack, so you sort of make them miss a turn. And they go back to the beginning. And what makes it interesting is that you can use the firefly to highlight a specific enemy, sort of basically blind them with the light, and that slows down their ticker, so you can beat them again and then knock them back and force them to miss another turn. It sounds complicated, it's really not. You can also use your firefly to sort of buff your guy's health very moderately. But this is kind of where there's a bit of a strange dichotomy, because it looks at first like it's going to be a really good entry-level RPG, but it starts becoming really taxing. There's no difficulty spikes as such, but there's also no scaling, so you can happen upon a really difficult battle kind of accidentally, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of way to manoeuvre between them if you want to sort of progress. And if you're looking for something really meaty, this isn't it. I know it's a budget sort of download-only game, but it's not. There's something about the structure of these games, of this style of RPG. And maybe it's just because it's been the same structure for so many gigantic games that it feels like you take up an epic quest that never quite arrives. But to be honest, I'm all for it. I like the fact that this is like a sort of smash and grab 8-10 hour game, and then it's over. There's a lack of filler. I mean, there's things wrong with it. The upgrade tree is almost completely pointless. You can't pick a tack to choose. You can't sort of do anything. It's just, you just choose these points and they upgrade skills almost at random. So there's no real strategy there. And it's quite slight, but the combat is terrific. It's really quite engaging throughout. I mean, it's slightly muddled, I'd say, but it's definitely recommended.